He could have done that, but he put the man to lead. And
Mm-hmm.
leadership is not rulership. Leadership
Ooh.
means that you're leading by example. She
Mm.
already have a boss at work. She doesn't need one at home. She needs a husband that's going to love her, that's going to honor her, that's going to conversate with her, have meaningful conversation, turn off the video game, turn off the television, and speak into her life, knowing that when she's hurting for a reason, find the reason why there's a problem, and then she, in return, can give back to the marriage. See, one of the problems that we see in the culture today is people are taken from a relationship and they're not putting anything in it. You have a man that get married, but he doesn't know how to lead. He's not a prayer. He doesn't know how to pray. He doesn't know how to have meaningful conversation. Every time that something goes wrong, he shut down and go watch a video game or play TV, play video game and watch television rather. And I mean, all these different things just create an escape route for him to just hide instead of taking the challenge of growing and becoming the man that God have called him to be.
Welcome to the More Love Connection podcast. This is your host, Jannard D. Moore. Before we start the show, we officially want to invite you to become a Patreon for the More Love Connection podcast. If you don't know what Patreon is just a way to support your favorite podcasters or content creators. For just as little as $1 a month, you can officially support the More Love Connection podcast. If you're interested, we'd love to have you as an official More Love Nation supporter. So go over to www.patreon.com/MLCXN. Again, that's www.patreon.com/MLCXN. If you become an official supporter, you'll get access to behind the scenes content. You'll get access to guests. You'll be able to know who the guests are before we even announce on social media, and a plethora of other things. So think about becoming a More Love Connection podcast supporter. We'd be honored to have you as an official supporter. Again, that's www.patreon.com/MLCXN. For just as low as $1 a month, you can officially support the podcast. Now, let's jump right over to the episode.
Hey, what is going on, More Love Nation? I am back with another exciting Husbands 101. As you all have seen, this series has been amazing. I've been dropping we dropped the episode last week, but I just been dropping like 1-minute clips from the previous episode. But this episode right here is about to take the Husbands 101 series to another level. The guest that we have, man, I'm telling y'all, he's probably one of my favorite speakers, man. I met this guy earlier this year, and as I told y'all before, every single individual that we've had on the Husbands 101 series, I met on Clubhouse. And so Clubhouse is a great connector for making partnerships, making friendships, but just even bringing great content to our listeners. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and welcome my friend, Mr. Dauren Francis, to the More Love Connection podcast. How are you?
Hey man, what's going on, my brother? It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, first of all, man, like I said earlier, thank you for being a part of the More Love Connection podcast. But before we go any further, More Love Nation, what I want you to do is I want you to go and show Dauren's Instagram some love. Check out his Instagram at Not Easily Broken. It's not KNOTEASILY broken. You can see it right down below. Also, check out his website, noteasilybroken.com. And Dauren has an amazing YouTube channel. So if you want to check out his content, if you've already gone over to his Instagram and his website, go over to Instagram. Again, tap the link in his bio if you're already on Instagram, and you can see his YouTube page. So go over to his YouTube page, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications so you can be notified every single time Dauren releases a new episode on YouTube. Search Not Easily Broken. Dauren also, I'm telling y'all, man, this dude bad. The list is just going on and on. He is also a published author. So you can go onto his website, check out his products. But he has a book that is entitled Built to Last: A Successful
Yes.
Marriage and Relationship. In addition to that, he has co-authored a book with his wife, Dating and Courting with Godly Purpose. So as y'all can see, man, Mr. Dauren Francis is a bad mamma jamma.
Fine, man.
So yeah, go show Dauren some love. But let's just jump right into the conversation. Dauren, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me. I really honor the privilege of just sharing the stage with you and being on your platform. I really love what you're doing, and you're making moves also on Clubhouse, man. Your live broadcast is always popping, man. And again, for those of you that don't know who this brother is, you need to go check him out, man. He's doing some great things, man. So thank you so much for having me here. Appreciate it.
Man, I definitely appreciate that. So let's just jump. Like I said, the first question I have for you: how long have you been married?
Well, I have been married for 27 years, and counting the 1st of February next year would be 28 years of marriage, I'm excited about the fact that God have blessed me with one that I can partner in life with. I've known her practically all my life. It's funny you mentioned that because I just dropped a YouTube video on Wednesday talking about our love story. I've known her
Wow.
since I was 5 years old, kindergarten all the way up, and but I ain't going to talk about it here. That's not what it's about. But for those of you that want to check it out, you can go to my YouTube channel and you can go look at it. It's pretty amazing love story, man. You some of y'all going to kind of cry when you watch it.
Man, look, I'm definitely gonna
27
check it
years,
out.
man.
I'm
27 years
definitely
of
gonna.
marriage, man. Yeah,
Wow.
definitely. God is good, man. Hallelujah.
Wow, man, I'm definitely gonna check that out. So 5 years old is when y'all first met. But if y'all want to
Yeah.
hear more about that story, head over to Darren's YouTube. You know, we just talked about it. It's linked right here below. So you've been married for 27 years.
Yes, sir.
Um, so we were talking about operating as a husband.
Hmm.
Kind of just tell us like those first few years. What were they like for you as a husband?
Well, the truth be told, I think the first few years as a husband, it was more about learning how to coexist in a marriage. You date, and you court, you get married, and then you get into marriage, and you begin to realize that the person that you date, the person that you court, and the person that you're married are three different people. And then the person that they become is based on how you, as a man, is really positioned to lead. And
Wow.
so, for me, it was pretty much you know understanding my purpose, understanding my role. Again, I've known her since I was 5 years old. We were born and raised on the beautiful island of Jamaica. That's where I'm from now, living in New York City. And so, we have been the best of friends all our lives. She used to talk to me about boys that she liked. I used to talk to her about girls that I like. And then at 17, 18 years old, she transitioned into this beautiful, fine, gorgeous lady. And I didn't see her as a best friend anymore. I pursued her for
Wow.
1 year before she finally gave me an opportunity to marry her, or to date her rather, before marriage. But then after we got into marriage, we begin to realize that love alone just won't make it work. It takes understanding, the knowledge, the wisdom, and the skill that is necessary to really build a successful marriage. And so it allows me to have to kind of slow down and look at where I'm at and where I'm going and where I need to be as a husband, as a man first, before
Hmm.
husband. And so it's been a journey. It's a progress. But I'm grateful as to the reality that I wasn't one of those that make excuses as to why I was not ready to take on that responsibility. But I kind of lean all the way in and became the
Yeah.
man that God have wanted me to be. And yeah, it's been a journey, and I'm grateful to where we are right now. Thank God.
Well, it's something you said, position yourself as a leader. And one of the things that I am learning, and that a common theme that is presenting itself throughout this series, is being a leader as a husband and having a vision. And one
Yeah.
of the things that I really, really like that you said before in a clubhouse room, you kind of
Mhm.
talked about having a vision for your family and ensuring that your entire family is on board with that vision. Can you just kind of speak to us about having a vision and making sure your family is on board, and how do you do that as a husband?
Well, the truth be told, regardless of society and what society wants to think or perceive in a culture that doesn't really understand the dynamic between the male and the female, the man and the woman, the husband and the wife, I learned from an early age, and I'm old school. The reality is that that once you find a woman or you marry someone that wants to be a wife, not just a bride, because there's a difference
Mm-hmm.
between being a wife and being a bride.
Okay.
Some woman just wants to be a bride. They want to wear that pretty dress. They want to have those exotic vacations and those nice trending videos and pictures on social media. But then when it comes to understanding your position as a wife, it's a whole different story. Same thing goes for the man. You can be a husband, you can be a groom for a day or for a couple of minutes before while you're getting married, but it's going to take a while for you to understand your purpose and your responsibility as a husband. And so from day one, I realized and I knew that my responsibility is to lead my family. When I talk
Mm-hmm.
about leadership, I'm not talking about being a boss. I'm not talking about my wife being subservient to me. We are both equal in the marriage. We are both created equally by God, but our position and our responsibility in the home is different. And so I had to understand and begin to realize that God have called me to lead. And leadership is not rulership. Leadership means that you lead by example. And I had to understand that. And from day one, I began to learn what my responsibilities as a husband really looks like from a biblical perspective and understand what it means to be a husband, to be a leader. And I just
Mm-hmm.
take on that role. Of course, I had to learn it because no one taught me exactly how to be that when I was
Right.
younger, growing up. And one of the things that I begin to realize is that if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there?
True.
If you don't know how you're going to lead your family, then you're just going to end up anywhere. And so I begin to realize that I need to sit down and have a blueprint, have a game plan for my family. And
Mm-hmm.
I started earlier. I think, I don't remember exactly when, but I started to sit down with my wife and we just started to write things down that we want to accomplish. And the moment I incorporate her in the visions that I have, it becomes our vision. It's not just me telling my wife, okay, well, I want to do this and I want to do that. A matter of fact, I don't make any kind of decisions that will impact my marriage or my finances or our household in any way without consulting with her first, because we are a partnership. And I begin to realize that the moment I start to engage her into these ideas, she allows me to really begin to see things differently, and I'll take constructive criticism and ideas from her, and I use that to polish and to sharpen some of the things that I wanted to do. I think one of the biggest mistake a husband or a man can ever make is not understanding that his wife is his greatest asset. When the Bible
Mm-hmm.
said that he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing and have obtained favor from the Lord, it's no joke. A man is favorable when he finds a wife, and then when you're able to understand what she brings to the marriage. Man, it's a beautiful thing when the two of you guys are locking horns together, rocking and jiving, man, and moving towards a worthwhile goals, vision, dreams, and aspiration is a beautiful thing. And I always tell a husband this, man, that listen, when you understand the asset and the value in your wife, you don't keep secrets. You don't make any decisions without consulting her, because she's a partnership. And the moment I start to implement that into my marriage, things just started to change, man. I turn over
Wow.
all the responsibility as it relates to paying the bills to my wife. I have not paid a bill, I think, probably about the 30 in our marriage. And I've been
Wow.
married for 27 years. Do I know where the money goes? Yes. Do I see the statement at the end of the month, or by monthly, or every 3 months, depending on the bank?
Right.
Sure, but I don't deal with that because my wife is so good at it. I am good, but she's great at it. All right. And
Wow.
so you have to understand the dynamic of your weakness and your strength. And once I begin to realize that, I mean, 27 years of marriage, we have never bounced a check. We have never lived above our net income. And that's all because we set goals and we work on achieving those goals. And we never set our goals, our expectations higher than we know that we can reach them. Of course, we have big dreams that we need the Spirit of the Lord to lodge in our faith, to expand our reach. But at the same time, I know that the vision that I have for my family, it also have to incorporate my wife. And then as we start having children, then we also incorporate our kids into that process also. So yeah, it's a part of our culture in our family.
Man, that's amazing. And one of the things, and I wanted to go here, but you kind of answered the question, is how do you create that partnership? But I love what you said as far as you identified her strength and paying the
Hmm.
bills. And
Yeah,
I loved how you phrase it. I'm good at it, but she's great at it.
absolutely.
So my question to you is, I know you are a marriage coach, a
Mhm.
mentor. Have you found it that men struggle with giving up certain things, to their spouses, or letting go of that ego, I should say?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of times, that's some of the challenges that I do have, especially when I coach men. First of all, they come to the session like this, like, okay, what are you going to tell me now? I've heard it before, but I'm good, and I don't give myself credit. I give all glory to the Lord for
Hmm.
allowing me to kind of chisel away at those walls and those blocks that are blocking them from really begin to see that. Listen, you don't have to be all things to your relationship. Not when God gives you a helpmate. The Bible said that God created Eve because there's certain characteristics and there's certain personality that the woman has that is a complement, and it's add value to the relationship. So when I tell men that, listen, know your strength. If you can pay the bill correctly, let the wife do it.
Right,
That doesn't mean that you're less than a man. A
right,
matter of fact, if she does it, I guarantee you that you probably will see more benefits. Why? Because women are very sensitive when it comes to money, right? Because security is very important to women. For example, if a man should come to his wife, go to his wife right now and say, "Hey, babe, I have this business idea, or I want to buy this car, or I want to move into this new apartment, I want to relocate into this home." The first thing they want to know, how much it's going to cost.
yep,
Why? Because the bottom line is important. Women don't want to negotiate between the security of their
wow,
marriage or the relationship with the fact that you're just trying to buy a new car. They would rather stay in the old one,
right,
because it's working.
right,
Because if it's going to impact the finance in a negative way, then she's not very excited about it. And the reason why sometimes the love and the intimacy is funny is because the man is not really laying down the proper, foundation that she as a woman can build on. And so I tell men all the time that, listen, man, if you marry the right woman, she will never, under any circumstances, give you advice that will jeopardize that security. She just doesn't
wow,
know how to do it. Because
right,
her idea of a successful marriage is the two of you guys working together to create that success, to create that culture. But I think it's pride. I think it's us not understanding that our wives are equal with us in marriage and they're not lesser. It's our ego. We're driving down the highway and you missed the exit and your wife told you 3 hours ago and you're still driving like you know where you're going. Dude, just chill. Just give her
right,
credit, man. You made the wrong turn. Just turn back and say, babe, you're right. Let's go back. But you're going to carry on and you're going to try to justify why you made a mistake. No, man, it doesn't work that way. It's all about understanding that she has something to bring to the table. And let
yeah,
me just say this, all right? Not Easily Broken was birthed out of me wanting to do conferences and workshops and seminars and retreat with the NOT. I brought
hmm,
the idea to my wife. I said, babe, I want us to do like webinars and conference and with Not Easily Broken. And she said, no, 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 don't use the NOT, use the K NOT.
wow,
I'm like, whoa, why the K? And she said the K makes the difference.
wow,
At first, I didn't even understand what that meant, but
yeah,
I wrote it down, and 2 years later, I had to rebrand everything because God just dropped it in my spirit and said, "Remember what your wife told you 2 years
wow,
ago." Because we were not easily broken. Our ministry, our brand was after we say I do.
hmm,
That was our brand. After we say I do, and the idea came out of uh, um, just bringing something to my wife and saying, "Hey, babe, listen, this is the idea that I have. What do you think about it?" And she said, "Don't use the N, the N. Just add the K to it because it
right,
represents a knot, and that's what this knot is about. Not easily broken. This is the knot,
right,
right? The black represent the husband, the white represent the wife. The blue and the white represent the wife, and the gap is absolutely what is causing division. So the idea is for allowing the two knots to come together. When the
wow,
knots come together, it creates something that is unbreakable. This is
wow,
actually considered to be a fisherman's knot. I read up on it when my wife gave me the idea, and all of a sudden I bought the domain name. Then I keep that in my back pocket, you know what I'm saying? And then 2 years later, it became our brand. When I wanted to
Wow.
start the LLC, I said to my wife, I said, babe, I want to start the LLC. I don't want to mix up our regular funds with our business funds and stuff like that. And I wanted to change the whole dynamic of it. I went to her and I said, babe, what do you think? My first name is Dauren. Her first name is Joan. And I said, I would like us to create a LLC that called D&J Consulting LLC. And she said,
Mm-hmm.
no, 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 that's too generic. I don't like that. I was like, what are you talking about? I said, that's my first initial, and that's your first initial, D&J,
Right.
Dawn Joan,
Right.
D&J Consulting LLC. And she was like, no, 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 no. Why don't we change it? Let me think about it, and I'll come up with an idea. Bro, I kid you not. About like 3 days later, my wife said to me, I got it. I said, what do you got? She said, I got the LLC. It's called Dojo. I was like, what? What kind of name is that? Dojo. And she said, your first four initial, DAU, that's my first four letters of my name, and JO is her first letters in her
Uh-huh.
name. And when you put it together, you get Dojo. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, that is crazy. And I
Right.
got so excited. I went online, look it up on the LLC New York City. It was available. Guess what? We got the LLC. We have a limited liability corporation under our name. So DAU is the first four letters, and JO is her first letter. When you put it together, you get Dojo Consulting LLC, right?
Wow.
And that's just some of the ideas that I throw out there, and it makes sense. We are a family. We're a couple. We're in marriage ministry. We consulting with couples and doing all these different things. And why not just keep it in the name? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And
Right.
so and so it's important for men to understand that you're not weak by consulting your wife. You're strong
Wow.
because you understand her strength. And 90% of the time, here's a problem: is that after we make mistakes, that's when we go to our wives and say, "Hey, babe, listen, I forgot to tell you, man, but this is what happened." And now they have to try to help us to come up with ways to fix the problem. When if you had made the issue hers in the first place, when you messed up, you wouldn't look like you failed. You would look like the two of you guys came up with an idea and it just didn't work. And so it's important to understand that you have an opportunity to always put her in the midst of what you're doing. Even if she doesn't understand your business idea, she can pray for you. Talk to
Yeah.
her about it. Let she pray. Let say, babe, pray for this. Pray with me about this, and let's see how God is going to work this out. You know what I mean?
Man, that's so amazing. And the thing that I loved about that story, Darren,
Hmm.
is just seeing how you submitted to your wife's strengths. You know,
Amen.
even with her bringing, just change it. Well, don't use the NOT, use the KNOT. You
Yep.
know, a lot of times our ego say, "Well, no, I came up with this name." You know, I'm just bringing it to you just to let you know what it is. You know, but I loved how you embraced it and you ran with it. And I think, like you said, the ego and the pride gets in the way sometimes. And I
Always.
know, moment of transparency, I know I have fell victim to that. You know,
Hmm.
bringing something to my wife, and I already know I'm just bringing it to you to let you know this is the decision I already made in my
Yeah.
mind. And then later on, it's like, okay, well, I should have incorporated you with, on this decision. But I loved how you just explained the partnership and broke it down to, this is how she is your help me. This is the things that she can do. So I really, really love that. Um,
Absolutely.
Another question that I wanna kind of talk about, and you kind
Hmm.
of you kind of alluded to it just with going to your wife and bringing her ideas is the notion of communication, especially for men.
Oh
You talked about taking the NOT to her with the name and how she changed it, or she
man.
didn't change it, but she added something to it.
Yeah, yeah,
But how does communication play a role, especially for husbands in marriages?
man. It's a big role, man. A matter of fact, it's one of the biggest challenges that couples are dealing with: the lack of understanding communication. And when I talk about communication, it's not just speaking, but it's really about communicating effectively. Now, if we could take it back to the beginning, when God created Adam, right? Adam was busy working, he was busy cultivating and accomplishing his assignment, his responsibility in Eden. And then God said in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 18, it's not good for man to be alone. I will create for him help. And so
Mm-hmm.
God created a companion for Adam. When God put Adam to sleep, took a rib from Adam, created the woman, then he presented the woman to the man. What
Mm-hmm.
was interesting about the whole story of communication is Adam did not touch Eve's body. I'm sure she was beautiful. I'm sure she was gorgeous. She was sexy. Gravity was not pulling her down. Everything was right where it's supposed to be. Come on, women, let's talk
Yeah.
about it.
Let's
Right?
talk about it.
Everything was fine, man. Gravity was not pulling down her breast. Everything was
Yeah.
just beautifully created. God
Right.
made man, but he created woman. There's a difference between making something and creating something. There was a lot of thoughts that was put into that creation when God
Yeah.
created the woman. But what's interesting about it is that the first thing Adam did was look at Eve and he edified her. He said, "Wow, whoa, baby, you're beautiful. You are bone of my bone. You are flesh of my flesh. I will
Right.
call you woman because you came out of me." So the first thing Adam did was pour into the woman.
Wow.
He spoke into her. He
Right.
edified her. He said, "You're beautiful. You're gorgeous. You are fine. You are Eve. You are woman. You came out of me."
Mm-hmm.
And it's important for men to understand that communicating to your wife, it's critical to her language of love, intimacy, affection. All of those things are intertwined or woven into the way you communicate with her. One of the things that I'm very big at is telling men to that we were created a certain way because we like to fix problems. We're a
Right.
problem solver. That's all we are. So as your wife is talking to you, the first thing you're trying to do is to bypass the hearing and go right into solve mode. And 90% of the time when our wife come to us with a problem, they already know the answer to it. They just want to hear you listen.
Mm-hmm.
99% of the time, your wife don't need you to solve her problem. She knows the answer. They're woman. They know. They just want to share. They just want to vent. They just want to release that to you. I tell men all the time that when you speak to your wife, she does not hear words. You are actually creating an experience. That's why you should
Explain.
never call your wife name. You should never say that she's fat. You should never call her ugly. You should never call her skin. Just don't do those things because every time that you open your mouth and you say something negative to your wife, you are not just speaking words. You are creating an experience. She's experiencing your words. Your words is a creative force. That's why when you say, "Baby, you're beautiful. Look at that butt." She starts to just square her shoulder. She starts to walk differently. "Girl, you're fine. Oh my God, I like that dress."
Yeah.
When you start speaking those language, it creates something. Sometimes I've learned to just listen to my wife speak, not cut her off, not trying to fix the problem, just listen. There's another thing that I always tell men. If your wife come to you with a story today and you heard it, and she comes tomorrow or the next day to talk to you about the same story, just shut your mouth and listen. Why are you going to tell her that, "Oh, babe, didn't you talk to me about it yesterday?" For every time that a woman is speaking to you and you give her the attention, you are showing interest, you're leaning in, you're engaging in the conversation, it is creating an experience for her.
Mm-hmm.
And so listening is not a skill that we're born with, men. Hearing is sense that we're born with. Hearing, but
Right.
listening is a skill that we must develop. And 99% of the time, the problem with us men is that we bypass the listening phase of the conversation and we go right into being critical or we go right into the solve mode. And at that point, your wife is saying that you are not listening to me.
Right.
And it's a turn off for her. The other thing also is during conversations or during conflicts, it's not about you trying to be right. There are times when you're right, but as a man, you have to deliver the message where her vulnerability is not broken. I had to
Mm.
learn that. You have to
What's
deliver the message where she don't feel like you are talking to her like you're going after some boys that trying to beat you on the playground in basketball. She wants to still feel safe after the conversation. Because at the end of the day, when you finish fighting, guess who you want to lay down next to? Your
right?
wife.
Right.
Because she can turn off what was said earlier in the day and become sexual at night when you can compartmentalize that kind of emotion for her. She just don't know how to do that. She's not wired that way. It takes a while for her to recalibrate and get back to her normal, emotions and senses to really deal with you on that level. Versus the man can have an argument before bedtime, and 5 minutes after the argument, you're trying to stroke her back and rub your hand on her hips, and she be like, "What are you trying to do?" You know,
Right.
I'm not there yet, lady. You got some apologizing to do. You see what I'm saying? And so it's
Right.
important for the man to understand that you have the ability to create. Your wife is like a raw material in your hand. When
Hmm.
God gave her to you, you have to create something special. And the best way for you to do that is the language that you speak to your wife. That will change the atmosphere of the conversation. Man, listen, listen, you're a genius, guys. God created us with the ability to create. Listen, God put Adam in the Garden of Eden and he gave him work.
Hmm.
Adam create everything. Then when he created the woman and handed her to Adam, he presented the woman. Adam got something that he could build with. And that's what he did. He spoke into her life. And guess what Eve did in return? She just went and just grabbed Adam and hold him, and that was it, man. It was love, and it was intimacy, it was affection, it was passion, because the
Wow.
man knows how to use language that
Yeah.
unlock a different potential and attributes and characteristic in that woman. And only a man can do that. Only a man. She can't do it to herself.
Right.
You have the ability to unlock that which is locked up. In other words, you get the combination key, man. You know how to do it, brothers. Just
Yeah.
use the language. Use it.
Man, I love everything you said, Darren. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm just so excited right now just to go back and listen to the things
Man.
that you've said. But one of the things that really stuck out to me is when we're communicating to our wives
Mhm.
or anybody for that matter, we are creating an experience for them, and they
Yeah,
can either have a good experience or a bad experience. And the
that's
thing
right.
that popped in my head when you were talking about the experience is it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Come on now.
And the how you say it is what they experience. And so
There you
even for
go.
me, I'm sitting here thinking
That's
like,
it. You
okay,
got it.
now I gotta rephrase some
You
things,
got it.
and even in those moments where you're upset, okay, she's gonna experience this either a good way or a bad way.
Right.
And like you said too, we can compartmentalize and be ready to go turn the lights off and light a candle like the song say.
Mm-hmm.
And she's still thinking about the experience she had with you earlier. So I'm just, man, that's so good, man.
Yeah, she's gonna blow out that candle. She ain't gonna let you light them candles. Why? Because the experience is not there. It's kind of like how we say, that men just need a place to have sex. A woman need a reason to do it because sex is wired to her mind, to her brain. It's the same thing with language. Why you think that when a guy speaks to a woman a certain way, she's captivated by it? I did a workshop talking to men about how to really communicate with their wives, and I said, if you don't notice your wife and she goes to the gas station and the gas attendant or whoever it is pumping the gas just compliment her, where do you think she's going to go fill up the next day?
You're right. She gonna
She's
go
not
back.
looking for the attention. She's not looking to cheat on you. She's not looking to find another, dude on the side. The experience is what she's after. And
Mm.
that's often what lead into problems because we don't take the time to add value to our wives. She put on a nice dress and she walk out of the house and you playing your video game and you're trying to be a commentator and a sports and what do you call it,
A
analysis
sports
or
analyst, yeah.
yeah, yeah, thank you, sports analyst on ESPN, and you tell the coach who to put in and who to take out of the game, and your wife walk past you and walk into the street and 10 men stopped her and complimented her in her hair, her dress, her
Hmm.
shoes, and you pass all of that moment to add value to her.
Wow.
You see she come home smiling, and you say, "Oh, why are you smiling like that?" Because she got an experience that you missed.
Wow.
That's all it is.
Wow. And I'm thinking too. I love these types of conversations, Darren. And I told you, man, every time you speak, I just love hearing you talk because you're so full of wisdom. But the thing that I'm thinking about when we're talking about experience and the gas attendant and just acknowledging our wives or our significant others is men, we know how to do it
We do.
because we did it to get her attention in the first place.
There you go. You did it.
But it's like somewhere along the line, you get complacent, you get comfortable, and it's like, okay, like you said, even with the story, I've heard that story before, I've seen that before, so it really
Mhm.
doesn't not necessarily excites me, but what's the purpose? Because I already got what I wanted. So, but you're saying that we continuously have to do those things.
Amen. I
Yeah.
chase my wife harder now than I've ever did since I've been married to her.
Wow.
Like literally chase her. Yesterday,
Wow.
I was in my office, and she was downstairs in the kitchen, and I leave upstairs, went downstairs, just embraced her, kissed her, and just start walking back upstairs. And she said, "Babe, what did you come down here for?" I said, "I came to do what I did, hug you and kiss you. That's it. That's it.
I came to do what I did. Look.
I came to do what I needed to do, and that's it. You ain't a rocket scientist to understand that you can change the dynamic of your relationship. I,
Wow.
I'm not saying this just because I'm on your program. I'm
Hmm.
telling you because this is what it is. I chase my wife harder now than I've ever did when I was trying to win her heart. And I pursued her for 1 year before she gave me an opportunity to date her. And my wife will tell you that every day I do something to add value to her life
Wow.
because I am a creator.
Wow. Let's put a pause there. We're gonna go to a short commercial break, but when we come back, I want to talk about creating the atmosphere in your home and that chase because I'm getting ready to go run around the house and tell my wife she need to run. Look,
All right.
but we'll be right back with you with more of the More Love Connection podcast. Hey, More Love Nation. If you all are enjoying this episode, stop what you're doing. Make sure you hit that like button. Also, go down into the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. Leave us a comment. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcasting platform, make sure you take a screenshot of you listening to the episode, head over to your Instagram, upload it to your IG stories, and tag at More Love CXN. Once we see the notification, we'll share it with our audience. Also, make sure if you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform to leave a 5-star rating and a review. Reviews help new listeners find the More Love Connection podcast. So stop what you're doing, take the screenshot, leave a comment, just show some love. Another way that you can show us some love is by going to check out our website. Go to www.morelovecxn.com. Check out the merch tab. We have some sweatshirts, some hoodies. Go over and check out our merch tab. Also, for low as $1 a month, you can become an official supporter of the More Love Connection podcast. All you have to simply do is go to www.patreon.com/MLCXN. If you have not done so, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube, share it with your friends and your family. Again, that's the More Love Connection podcast. You know you like it. Go ahead and share it. Now, let's get right back to the episode. Man, I am telling y'all, this episode, as I stated from the get-go, is so good. Dauren is just dropping value. He's adding. I'm just telling you, it's fire. I love this types of conversation. Again, like I stated before, I love to hear Dauren speak. If you have not done so, make sure you go over to his Instagram. You can see it right here below. Not Easily Broken. Also, check out his website, noteasilybroken.com. We're going to bring Mr. Dauren Francis back and pick up right where we left off. So before we went to the break, Dauren, kind of asked you, I wanted to go here because you talked about creating that experience. So for husbands, we talked about the language and how you add value to your wives. And then you started talking about the atmosphere. How do husbands change and create atmospheres in their homes?
Well, the first thing that we have to do is to understand that God is the center of our marriage. We have to put God first. You know, when the Bible said that wives must submit to their husband as unto the Lord, she's not submitting to a flawed human being. She's actually
Mm-hmm.
submitting to the God in you. Because if she love God and you are displaying that godly character, then it's easy for her to submit to that. And let's change the word submit because it can be offensive in this 21st century, which it don't
Yeah.
make no sense to me because, respect is the same thing. You just respect your man, you respect your husband, you respect the God in him, you respect who he is as a priest of the home. I think it's important for us as husband to take leadership.
Mm.
Um, one of the things that challenged me in this culture today, my brother, is this, that, I often hear women say that, well, you know what, The man and the woman are equal. Yes, we are equal. We're equal as it relates to God creative plan. We're equal as it relates to how we're created. We're equal in the marriage, but yet we are different. The man and the woman, the male and the female, we are absolutely different. That we are wired differently, we are created by God differently. And so we need to understand that kind of dynamic in the relationship. Oftentimes when we do an assessment for a couple that reach out to us for marriage counseling or coaching or whatever, some wives would say, my husband does not want to take that leadership role. But then when we get into the counseling session, the husband said, my wife don't allow me to lead her. So there's a
Wow.
conflict as to who is trying to lead. And a two-headed monster's going like this is going to cause conflict. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
really understanding who you are as it relates to God's purpose for marriage. Once you understand the purpose for marriage and understand your responsibility for marriage, knowing the benefits of husband and wife team working together to build a culture that honors God first, honor your spouse, and then there's no conflict as to who is leading, because
Right.
two of you guys are leading together. God could have put the woman to be the head. He could have done that, but he put the man to lead. And
Mm-hmm.
leadership is not rulership. Leadership
Ooh.
means that you're leading by example. She
Mm.
already have a boss at work. She doesn't need one at home. She needs a husband that's going to love her, that's going to honor her, that's going to conversate with her, have meaningful conversation, turn off the video game, turn off the television, and speak into her life, knowing that when she's hurting for a reason, find the reason why there's a problem, and then she, in return, can give back to the marriage. See, one of the problems that we see in the culture today is people are taken from a relationship and they're not putting anything in it. You have a man that get married, but he doesn't know how to lead. He's not a prayer. He doesn't know how to pray. He doesn't know how to have meaningful conversation. Every time that something goes wrong, he shut down and go watch a video game or play TV, play video game and watch television rather. And I mean, all these different things just create an escape route for him to just hide instead of taking the challenge of growing and becoming the man that God has called him to be.
Wow.
Listen, man, I am 50 years old. Okay. I'm half a century here on the earth. I got married almost more than I've been single. All right. Which telling me that 90% of my life is basically about learning how to coexist and learning how to be a good husband. And the
Wow.
reality is that I tell men all the time that you don't stop learning how to be a better person. Every day you get up, you're supposed to be in a zone that I can be better than I was yesterday. In my
Mm-hmm.
bathroom, there's a quote on the wall. It says that every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. And every
Wow.
time that I wake up and I look at that, it's telling me that, Dauren, you have the ability to be better today for your wife, for your sons, and for yourself than you were yesterday. And the challenge that we have is personal development is not applied to relationship right now. It's really about the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
But take away the emotion and what do you have? Can you start over with your wife or with your husband with nothing? Because once you know who you are and where you're going and how you're going to get there, it doesn't matter what challenge comes your way. It doesn't matter what the enemy try to do. You can always fight back. A person that knows
Right.
how to build a successful business and lost their business, they're going to start a new one. But if you've lost everything, the money, the car, the social media, all of that stuff, all your brand, can you still start over with the woman that God has given you?
Wow.
Can you still start from scratch? Because at the end of the day, none of that means anything if she does not feel like she is your number one priority outside of your relationship with God. Because she is. And you
Right.
have got to value her that much and build around that, man. And she would go through the fire with you. Man, she will pray with you. She will give you insight and revelation that you don't even realize what was happening. Why? Because you lead and you show that position of leadership. I'm not talking about being a dictator. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work in a godly marriage. I'm talking about you knowing your position as a leader, that a leader lead by example. A leader must first walk the walk. I can never instruct my wife if I am not willing to take those very instructions? In
Right.
other words, the change that I want to see in my marriage, it first begins with me as a husband. Okay, I got two boys, 27, 25, and 18 years old. My younger one turned 19 last week, right? I don't tell my sons how to live. I live and let them watch me do it. And to
That's true.
this day, if I need to have any kind of meaningful conversation with my son, I tell them to meet me at the dining table and they will go and wait for me there.
Mm.
Because it's been a culture in our home from day one. My son is
Mm-hmm.
25 years old. A few months ago, him and his mother had a disagreement, and he spoke to his mother in a tone and a way that I didn't like. And I said, "Bro, we got to talk."
Mm-hmm.
That's where he went and sit down at my dining table.
Mm-hmm.
We had that conversation. Why? Because you create that culture that it doesn't matter how old they are, they're going to respect you because they see that you live that way. And that
Right.
is the problem in our society today. I've learned this from a Jewish friend of mine. He said that the more things change around you, is the more you need to hold on to the things that will not change. Do you know what is timeless? The principle of love, marriage, respect, honor, the principle of the word of God. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter what society want to say. The problem in our society today is because of this very same thing, that we don't have structure in our home anymore. We don't set principles that governs our home. We don't set boundaries that protect the lifestyle and the culture in our family. And so when our children go out there, they don't need to reflect back at home and say, whoa, would dad and mom approve of me doing that? Of course, we can't protect them and we can't be there 24/7 with them. But you and I remember when we were raised growing up, there are just certain things that, man, you don't do. And if you do it, man, you pray to God that God didn't reveal it to your grandmama or somebody at church, or your
Somebody.
parents don't find out, or somebody in the street don't see you doing it and call your
Yeah.
mama, call your dad, because you know you're going to get a good whooping. But
Yep.
outside of these kind of boundaries, what do they have? Nothing. And I've often maintained that as a man, you should never be afraid to be a parent. You should never be afraid to be a husband. Because if you are afraid to take that responsibility, then the devil just going to run Rashad over. He's going to manipulate you. He's going to manipulate your children. And both of you guys are always going to have chaos and have frustration. And then guess what's going to happen? You're going to be frustrated. You're going to pack a bag and then you're going to leave. That's what mostly happens in a lot of relationships today, because there's no standard that is being set from day one for you, your wife, and your children to follow. And standard is what we live by. And they're timeless. And when we live by them, they will never fail us, because principles was not designed to keep us in bondage. They were created by God to protect us. And one of those principles is to lead your family as you're led by God.
All right, yes, that was really, really good there. And one of the things that you said that really stuck out to me is just the leading by example. And I like the example that you gave is when you told your son you needed to talk, he went straight to the table because you've already said that and you said that's your culture. And I can remember for me, I remember my wife saying something to me, and even in this moment, it just that was me leading by example. But what she said was, I do this now because I saw you doing it in the house. And it
Mhm.
was basically when we lived in an apartment, I would put the clothes and don't make it right. I would
Uh-huh.
just sometimes either leave them in the laundry room on the floor and not necessarily put them in the basket.
Yeah.
And so when she started doing it, I was like, why are you doing that? And her response was, I do that because I saw you doing it. And so that just goes to the practical application of leading
Yeah.
by example. It doesn't necessarily have to be this big grand gesture, but it's just a small action
Big
that
thing.
takes place in the home. So I definitely am taking notes on that. I want to wrap up here. I got two more questions for you. You
Cool.
talked about chasing your wife, and you talked about you saying to her, "I came to do exactly what I did." What are some ways that we can continue to chase our wives in marriage?
Man, that's easy for men. I think it's the easiest for man. The more chasing you do, is the more sex you get. That's it. The more you chase, the more you create that atmosphere, the more you add value, is the more she's going to become more vulnerable.
Yeah.
Vulnerability and intimacy, it goes together. Um, a man doesn't really need a lot in order for him to get turned on and be excited about his wife. But for a wife, it's about you understanding the dynamic between the male and the female. We're always sexual. We're always ready to go. It don't take much for us to get fired up. But for the wife, it's different, man. It's just knowing that you have. I always tell men that your wife is a canvas and you're the artist, man. What do you
Wow.
want to paint? You know,
Right.
what kind of brush do you have? Do you have a
Right.
hard brush that's hurting the canvas, or do you have those small brush that's going to create some nice strokes? Maybe you want to be an abstract painter. You don't necessarily have a picture in your mind as to what you want to do, what picture you want to paint, but you have an idea that you want something special. So be creative. That's what it
Right.
is. Sometimes instead of asking your wife where she want to go for dinner, women are not interested or not fired up about that. They're not fascinated with you always asking, what do you want to
Yep.
do? Just tell her, baby. Call her and say, hey, babe, listen, I'm going to be home in an hour. Shower, get dressed. Oh, you remember that dress that I bought you the other day? Yeah, just get dressed. Put that on. I'm going to pick you up. Where we going, babe? Don't worry about it. Just be ready. I'm not going to come in the house and stay too long. I just want to pick you up and I want to go. I guarantee you, man, it don't matter if she's cooking for you, she's turning off that stove and she's gonna get dressed. She's
Right.
gonna get ready. I've
Right.
I've seen it happen over and over again. I set men up to get that going. Sometimes him and his wife having a little argument here and there, and things are not really nice at home. I say, yo, just get on the road, man, and just drive around the parking lot and long enough until your wife get ready. But you just call her and say, baby, I'm about to take you out. Don't matter how mad she is, she gonna have a conversation
She
about the
got
argument later. But for now,
right.
you just messed her up by telling her, baby, I'm coming to get you. I'm taking you out. The reality is that if you treat your wife as a queen, she will become one.
Wow.
I say it again, just like a little girl. I don't have daughters. I only have boys, but I have a lot of nieces, and I spoil them all the time. And I remember looking at my niece and saying, "You are a princess. You are amazing." And I literally watch her square her shoulder. I literally watch her start to walk with a different aura of confidence. Why? Because I
Hmm.
said something to her that makes her feel validated.
Wow.
What about us as men with our wives? Going through the cycle of having children and not feeling attractive and not feeling like they are beautiful enough, and put on a little weight, and we compliment other people in the street and like other people's profile and pictures, and they you don't I mean, these are just some crazy stuff that men do that just make their wife just feel like they're not attractive. You cannot stop chasing that woman.
Right.
You are the pursuer, and she want to be pursued. And the more you pursue her, the more she's running because you like the pursuit. Look at a little baby. You have two beautiful kids, right? How old is your daughter?
Two and one's getting rid of the youngest is getting ready to be 4 months.
Okay, so your older one is 2 years old. When you start playing with her, don't she always want to pull on you to play some more? Go ahead, daddy.
Yep.
Do it again, daddy.
Yep.
Why? Because she likes it. It's the same
Right.
thing with the woman. They just grown up that have that childlike love that wants to be edified, wants to be, uh, uh, um, you know, appreciated. And the same thing
Hmm.
goes for the men. They want their wives to compliment them and appreciate them. But this is really talking to the men, and helping men to understand how you can change the dynamic. You don't need a new wife. You just need some new routine, man. And once you
Wow.
start creating those new routine, your wife is like a metamorphosis take over. She just changed her body, her language, her posture, her attitude, her personality, her swag, the way she looked, the cologne, that the perfume that she had locked up in her closet for months. All of a sudden, she taking it out and putting it on. And you walk into the house and she look good, she smell good, and you ask her, babe, where you going? I'm not going anywhere. I'm just feel like dressing up. That's it. You do a double take, like, no, something is wrong. No, 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 no. Ain't nothing wrong. It's because you start to add value to her life. You start to
Wow.
speak into her life. Remember, guys, what I said, that your wife does not hear words, she experiences them. Words are language that a man used to create an experience for his wife. And the moment you create those experiences, you can't turn it off. She's gonna want more of it and more and more. That's why y'all need to listen to the More Love podcast, man, so you can get more of this information.
I appreciate that. Look, last question for you. You kind of just went into it, but I gotta ask you for the sake of the podcast.
Yes, sir.
If you could give one charge to husbands, what would that charge be?
One charge to husband is never stop being the best version of yourself.
Hmm.
Keep working on becoming the best you. You don't need to try to work to become a better husband. Become a better man. And by default, you automatically is going to impact the way you serve as a husband. See, God didn't create Adam to be a husband. God created Adam to be a man first. He gave him an assignment. He gave him responsibility. He gave him work. And the moment Adam have accomplished his assignment, that's when God put the woman in his life. You don't need your wife to be happy. You need God. You need purpose. You need responsibility. And the more purpose you have, the more responsibility you have, the more that you are accomplishing your worthwhile goals, dreams, visions, and aspiration, you automatically will become a better man. And by default, it will allow you to become a better husband. Because when a man is more productive, he's a better lover, he's a better friend, he's a better husband, he's a better everything.
Wow.
So that's what I would say. Keep growing, keep becoming. And every time you feel stuck, you reset, evaluate where you are, and move forward until you get to where you need to go.
Man, y'all heard it here first from Mr. Dauren Francis. Dauren, again, I appreciate you from coming on to the More Love Connection podcast. If y'all have not done so, make sure you head over to Dauren's Instagram at Not Easily Broken. It's linked down below. Also, check out his website, which is www.noteasilybroken.com. He has products, so make sure you check out that. Also, he told you he gave away, or he talked about his love story with his wife and how they met when they were 5 years old. Head over to his YouTube to hear that love story. You can see the link right here. Search on YouTube, Not Easily Broken. Just go show Dauren some love, because this has been some amazing content. This has been amazing information. Dauren, again, I'm forever thankful. Thank you for coming on to the show and sharing your wisdom with us, man.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. It was a pleasure being here, and I can't wait to be able to add value to your audience and your platform again. Thanks again, sir. Appreciate it.
All right. It's been my pleasure. More Love Connection. We will see y'all next week for another part of the Husbands 101 series. Hey, More Love Nation. If you've enjoyed this content, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. That way you can be notified every time we release a new episode. Also, make sure you check out the video right here